Okay, guys, hello. Welcome back to another monthly recap of all the books I read. I'm gonna try and face downwards so the glare in my glasses doesn't interfere with you guys. It is a Sunday evening. What time is it? It is 5:17 p.m. It's a Sunday evening. It is a March 1st, the hallmark of a new month. We'll be going into spring in a couple of days here. We have some birthdays coming up, etc., etc. But let's talk about what we really came here, what you guys came here to see, and that is for me to talk about books. So this month we're going to do things a little bit differently. Last month I did a gag where I would recap the books that I read in the previous month, which was January. And I did a little gag style where I was kind of making fun, poking fun of Kai Cenat, and I was using only 2 minutes to kind of retell what happened in the story, give a quick summary and kind of my thoughts. And I decided I don't want to do that anymore. Well, maybe I'll do it for next month, but not this month because I really want to talk about the books that I read this month. And second of all, because it gave me a lot of anxiety to just have to dumb down what I read in 2 minutes, and the clock was like giving me like PTSD of my high school years where that alarm would go off every gosh darn morning at 6:30 in the morning. Why are we sending the babies to school at 6:30 in the morning? You can hardly wake up for college at 6:30 in the morning, but I wake up for college at 6:30 in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays because I have an 8 a.m. anatomy lab, which I love. Love the content, love the topics, but I do not love waking up at 6:30. So let the kids go to school a little later because you have kids who are just like flushing, like bleeding with hormones, and you're making them wake up at 6:30 and then making them sit still for 55-minute intervals in classes with teachers who want to kill themselves. I'm going to tell you what I'm reading currently. Ta-da! I am reading The Loved One by Aisha Muharrar. Aisha Muharrar, I think she's Nigerian. There's a lot of Nigerian names in this book. Inyeka is one of them, Oyi, Emmanuel is one of them, and it's like, I know you're Nigerian. And she's putting some heritage into this book. But this book is a tale of grief. We follow the main character. Her name is Julia, and she has a friend who used to be an indie rock star. His name was Gabe, and he died. He had a fatal, tragic accident where he stepped out of his bathtub and he slipped and hit his head in the worst way possible, and he died instantly. It was on impact. And she is going on an adventure to retrieve his things because, as I said, he was an indie rock star, so he had multiple tours that he was doing, so he would leave things in cities, and now she's going to said cities to pick up his things. This is what I'm reading currently. I think this is day 2, and I'm on page 121, and I hope to get to page 220 today. That's what I'm currently reading. And now let's get into, I started using a new app, guys. It's called Fable, and it's like literally Goodreads but on crack. I mean, it gives you everything you could have asked for. It gives you a reader summary. It gives you how much books you've read. It counts your streak, how many days in a row you've read. It gives your average rating of your books. You can put reading goals. My reading goal for the year is 50 books. I'm 18 out of 50. It tells me by the pace that I'm reading at, I'll finish in June. So who knows? Maybe I can get to 100 books this year. Whoa. Everybody should get Fable. It's an amazing app. I'm telling you guys. It even gives you a reading summary. So right now, my reading summary is I'm a heartstring changer. Your books all tell love stories with a dash of personal growth. Your curious spirit guided you to these books that both entertain and help us grow. Whatever that means. Now we're going to go into what I did for the month of February. So in the month of February, I read 8 books. It's 2 less than January. In January, I read 10 books, but in February, I read 8 books. These were okay reads. I'd say. I feel like January, I think I read much more meaningful books, but also this month, I kind of went into this kind of like change. Like I just started buying books, but it's not like I was just buying books just to buy them. I buy books if I really enjoy them. And I'm telling you guys this, please use your libraries. Use your libraries. They are big buildings with books you can borrow for 3 weeks at a time and return them. Guys, use your libraries, please. Use your libraries. So, what I do is I get a book from the library, I read it. If I really like the book, then I'll go to Barnes and Noble and buy it. Don't go on Amazon, guys. It's not good. Support your local bookstores. But yeah. So I read 8 books. I had 2 5-star ratings, okay? 2 5-star ratings out of the 8. I had 4 4-star ratings, 2 3-star ratings. I think I had, oh yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah. If you do the math, that should add up to 8, right? But that's what I read. I guess we should really just go into this. I started off reading the first book that I read. I'm just gonna like list the book that I read, gonna read the review, tell my thoughts about the book, and we're just gonna do this like any other normal monthly recap of reading. So, but this time I will have some books on my person because there are some books that touched me this month and I went and bought them. So, with further ado, the first book that I read in February was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Yes, guys, I bought this book. This book touched me so much. I was like, yes, I have to buy this. I think this is the first book that I actually bought. And it's so beautiful. The cover is all shiny and stuff like that. But let me read my review from Goodreads. Remember, I gave this a 5-star. I said, I don't think there was one moment where this book wasn't rooted in tragedy. Everyone knows the story of Achilles, but through this book, we learn the story of Patroclus. Achilles, it reads, and beside it, Patroclus. The largest tragedy isn't the falling of Patroclus and then Achilles, as he vowed that wherever Patroclus went, he would follow. I believe it is the way pride overtook Achilles and rendered him unrecognizable. Achilles used to sing, he swam, he joked, he played the lyre. The Trojan War changed him. In the beginning, when he was prophesied to be the greatest warrior of Greek history, the title embarrassed him. Then as years passed on, foreign land fighting a meaningless war that was decided before he was born, he changed. Blood ran through his golden hair, and his lyre was left forgotten. Most of all, his hubris was what killed the love of his life, Patroclus. Pride was inevitably the fall for many in this story. What is the significance of a title if not just a name? Who cares if you are destined to be the strongest if you lose sight of yourself? Now this book, every girl has a Greek mythology like phase, and right now I'm having it with Percy Jackson and whatnot coming out. And you know what? This isn't actually my first time having a Greek mythology phase. Like, did anybody read Lore Olympus on Webtoon? And now you see how shit it is right now. But I used to love that shit back in like, what year was that? Like 2018, I want to say. But yeah, every girl has a Greek mythology phase. But this book was just so beautiful. It takes such a stunning way of telling the tale of Achilles. Everybody knows what happens to Achilles. You hear about Achilles' heel, etc., pride, etc., etc. It's what got him killed. But this story just does it in such a way. We follow the tale of Patroclus and Achilles. Patroclus is the main character. Achilles is he's like half main character. But Patroclus, he gets banished he's a prince. He's an exiled prince. He gets banished after accidentally killing another prince from another land. His father banishes him, etc., etc. Then he's pulled into this war because when he was a kid, he signed a pact, I think, of this one princess from a distant land. And they said that if anything were to happen to her, that all the men in this room who signed this pact would do anything in their power to protect her, retrieve her, whatever would happen to her. And then this princess, she gets kidnapped. And it leads into this war. And you know, Achilles, as a demigod, he is destined to be one of the greatest warriors. That's his path. That's his life path. And Patroclus and Achilles, they become friends. And then eventually they become lovers. And when the princess gets kidnapped, Patroclus is like, I signed the pact. I have to join this war to retrieve her. And Achilles is like, wherever you go, I shall follow. Aww. Now, Patroclus is very worried about this because he knows that Achilles is supposed to be the greatest warrior the Greeks have ever seen, but he is going to die in this war. Achilles is going to die in this war, and Patroclus does not want that to happen. So for the greater half of this book, we see these two men fighting in this war and still making time for each other and still having this beautiful romance until it gets to the climax where the war has been going on for over 5 years, I like to say at this point. And it's getting to a threshold where it's like somebody has to end this, like it has to happen now. And as the war continues, we just see Achilles become this whole different person. Like he didn't, when he was bestowed the title of becoming the greatest warrior the Greeks have ever seen, he hated it. He was like, this can't be me. Like he was like ashamed of the title. Like he was like, that can't be me. Like he was so like golden like his hair, so innocent, so golden, so like, I want to say feminine. Yeah, I'll say feminine. He was just like, there's no way this Achilles would be the greatest warrior in Greek mythology. No. But then the war changes him, like, because he is a demigod, and demigods are obviously, they're stronger than the normal human. So when he's like showcasing his feats in the war, it starts to get to him, and we see this pride and this like it just becomes, he becomes unrecognizable essentially, and we just see this decline in Patroclus and Achilles' relationship. And at one point, Achilles' pride is so hurt that he says he will not fight in this war until one of the war general apologizes to him for disgracing him in front of everybody. And Patroclus is like, this won't do. I'm going to fight in your place. If you put your armor onto me, nobody will know that it's not you fighting. They'll just think, okay, Achilles' armor. They see Achilles' armor, they're gonna be like, okay, Achilles is fighting. So Patroclus, he's a decoy. He starts to fight, and Patroclus is a warrior too. He trained alongside Achilles for how long? They've known each other for since they were children at this point. So now they're full-grown adults in their mid-20s. So Patroclus is not to be mistaken as some kind of docile boy who only studied medicine. No, this man is a warrior too. So he's killing people in this suit, and he starts to feel the pride from being a warrior, and he takes it a step too far. He wants to end this war so bad because he feels if he ends this war, everybody can be happy and he can get the old Achilles back. But that's not what happens. He goes a little too far and he dies. And it's just so sad. Achilles just loses himself. He already lost his identity, and now he's lost the love of his life. It's like, how can I keep on living? And it's just such a beautiful tale. It's such a beautiful spun tale on Greek mythology. And I was like, if it's one thing, the Greeks know how to write tragedy. And that's why I gave this book a 5 out of 5. Like, this book touched me so much. I was like, immediately after I finished it in one day, immediately after I finished it, I literally went to Barnes & Noble and I was like, yeah, just give me the book. Thank you. And yeah, The Song of Achilles. The next book that I read was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and I bought this book too. I bought the whole series because I love this universe, bro. I didn't think I would, but I actually love this universe. I gave this book a 4 stars, and there's my Goodreads rating. Even though it took me a bit longer to finish this book, it took me 9 days than the first, and there were some moments that would have granted it a 3-star rating, the end of the book managed to pull me back in. Just like the first, the brunt of the conflict is compiled into the last 100 pages, and the tension keeps you from wanting to put the book down. The twist at the end with Xaden was amazing, enough to make me want to reread the first 2 books to see if it was that obvious. Guys, a lot of people say that Onyx Storm, which is the next book in this series, is the best, but I think Iron Flame encapsulated everything, and it made me realize a few things about my preferences in reading. I love government, like scandal, lies and stuff like that, and I think I'm gonna base the next fantasies I read based on those tropes. But Iron Flame took all of this, Rebecca Yarros took all of that and just encapsulated it into this 600-page heathen of a book. It was amazing to see. There was so much lore building, world building in this book that I was just like, yeah, I'm going to read this book until the last, which is the 5th book. So she's currently working on the 4th. But this is my Percy Jackson, guys. Like, everybody had their Percy. I'm so mad. Whatever. I'm not even going to delve into that. This is my Percy Jackson, and it's getting adapted, so this is really my Percy Jackson. But this book is so good. We get into the resistance, we get into knowing that Brayden is alive. We see the resistance grow. We see all this. We learn about the resistance children. There's a new leadership that is hell-bent on making Violet's life the worst time to be alive. We learn more about Indarna. We learn more about the Venin. Tragic things happen, and it's just like, oh, you're just biting your nails. And then at the end, oh my gosh, I have my live reaction of like Xaden revealing his second signet. What? And then all that shit. But what I did not expect at the end was Xaden to turn Venin. When that happened, oh my gosh, when that happened, I bumped like my TBR Onyx Storm. I was gonna wait a few books until I read the third one, but then I was like, after I read the ending, I was like, immediately get the third book. Let's go, bro. so so that's going to lead me into the next book. Okay, so the next book I read the following month was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, and I also gave this book a 4-star rating. This was my Goodreads review. I said, I have so many questions, but not enough mind power to formulate them. The ending, again, was so captivating that I was unable to put it down. It changes everything. What are the rebellion children's second signes? Where has Xaden run off to? How long has Imogen been erasing memories? What happened in those 12 hours Violet went missing? Rebecca Yarros is a genius. It does. I think this book has, I know why a lot of people like the third book over the first and well, maybe the second. The first book is also a lot of people's favorites, but I understand why this third book is a favorite. But one of the things in this book is the push and pull between Xaden and Violet that just pissed me off. Like I told you guys, I hate miscommunication tropes, and that was literally what fueled the relationship in this third book. But everything else, like finding out Indarna's like real like lineage and all that, finding the rest of her species, what her species is supposed to represent and all that stuff, the rejection and then the acceptance, and then boom after boom, then learning that all the rebellion children have second signes. And it's like we learn about like Garrix, we learn about Imogen, we're waiting to learn about like Bodhi, even though like Liam, he had a second signet, but he died in the first book, and it's just like, bro, what? And then we have this Xaden struggling with siphoning this extra energy because now he's a Venin, and Venin just siphoned from the earth, and they just have this constant need to siphon energy. And seeing him struggle with that, because Xaden is like this nonchalant like shadow, like dark, like if you think Shadow from Sonic, that's who you should think about when you think of Xaden. Just this nonchalant person who will never tell anybody that what they're feeling, how their real emotions are. But we do get to see, now that he's in this vulnerable state, we do get to see that like opening up, and I think that was amazing to see, because now it's just like Xaden felt more, he felt 3D dimensional, if that makes sense. But this book was so good. One thing Rebecca Yarros does, I think, is literally just for this series, is that the last, I want to say 150 to 100 pages of the book, it's lit, you cannot put it down, because something is happening chapter after chapter after chapter. Like you can't put it down, and you just end up finishing it in just one go, because she just knows how to like string up conflict, bro, and she knows how to string up like you should just have your heart pattering. And I really enjoyed this read, and I love this universe, bro. I love this universe. I can't wait for the fourth book. I'm assuming that should come out next year, I want to say, but I'm going to be the first to pre-order that. I'm probably gonna have to reread Onyx Storm so I know what's going on, but oh my gosh, what a good read. Now for the next book that I read. The next book that I read was Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and this is the third book in her Part of Your World series. So the last time that I talked to you guys, I read Yours Truly, which is the second book in the series, and I didn't have much to say about this one, but I loved this third book. Oh my gosh, I love this third book, and I gave it a 5-star initially, but then I bumped it down to a 4-star because I was feeling like, girl, calm down. It was good, but it wasn't that good. But This is my Goodreads review. I said, this book really just came full circle for me. I think Emma is Abby Jimenez's best character, probably for all time. Such a well-written female character with such depth. I think she was the most akin to me, and that's why I love her so much. Seeing her struggle with her problems and finally being able to get peace was the most gratifying feeling. I felt as if this book was the final puzzle piece to all of Abby's books. I mean, everybody was there, everybody was mentioned. Like, I just kept gasping and screaming every time a recurring character was mentioned. I should have read this way earlier, guys. When I tell you every character from like the past two books of the series was in this book, it was such a full circle. Like the twist at the end with like the family ties, I was just like, I would have never saw it coming, and I'm so glad that like that's canon now. Like, it was just a beautiful book. I love the male lead. I love the male lead and the female's lead relationship. Like, the romance was just so refreshing. Like, there was just one moment where, because the female lead, she's a nurse, right, and she caught, I think it was norovirus, the virus that makes you expel bodily fluids from your anus in your mouth to sex. She got really sick, and she's a traveling nurse. So she was in Minnesota for a few weeks because she met this guy online and they were like, okay, what if we meet up? Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to get too much into it, but she rented this place, like it was on a lake. So you had to cross the water, you'd have to use the boat, and the boat wasn't in. So when he got the call that the female lead was sick, he literally took like a floaty and paddled himself across the lake just to get her to get into the house to help her because she was like deathly sick. And I just remember squealing reading it because I was like, yeah, this is really good romance. Like, I can see why it's her highest rated. And I just like, I loved it, bro. It was a beautiful book. I can't lie about that. Like, the romance was there. It was there. Okay. Now the next book that I read, oh, girl, the next book that I read was In Memoriam by Alex Wynn, and it is right here. It's another book that I purchased because it touched me so much. This book is so beautiful. Guys. It takes place in World War One, and it's an LGBTQ story. It's about two guys. Let me flip it this way. Guys, look how pretty the cover is. Like, you can't even like. I was like, if I don't get this cover when I get it from Barnes and Noble, just give me my refund, because the American cover is so ugly. Let me show you what the American cover looks like. I don't want that. I was like, give me the UK cover, and I'm so glad that they did, because look how beautiful this book is. I gave this a 5-star rating, and this is my I wrote a lot for this review. I wrote a lot. I don't even think I should read this, but let me just read it. I knew what I was getting myself into while reading this book, but I did not think it would pick me up, spin me for a ride, then drop me so carelessly. I read the last page and asked nobody, is that it? And while the ending did seem optimistic, Ellie would learn to love again. I felt empty. Will it be enough? Gaunt seems to think so, that he would wait on the sliver of hope forever, for Ellie to love him again. Moreover, his everlasting desire to return to England. Ellie's once against his own for once. Almost hard to believe when before, Ellie would jump off a cliff if Gaunt were to ask him to. Yet it all felt so unrequited towards the end of the book. I can only feel for Gaunt, years fighting back what he thought was wrong, men loving men, just to be the one who was pleading for affection in the end. The parallels that repeated themselves in the book will stick with me. Gaunt thinking Ellie was a ghost etched in still beauty while they were given leave during active service, to Ellie thinking Gaunt was a ghost, thin and hardened by war after thinking he was dead for the last 2 years. But they worked together because they are the only ones who could understand each other. Try as they might when they were separated to find each other's replacements, nobody could fulfill the role they had for one another. Despite it being set in World War I, it was all good fun. The characters were diverse and easy to catch on to. I think the little gags in between, the schoolboys teasing Gaunt about how obsolete he was, made the book for me. I hope this isn't the last we see of Gaunt and Ellie. I can hardly believe their story is finished. Guys, this book takes place in World War One. You guys know you guys know I love a good story, like about war and romance, specifically being in love during a war, because everything is so much more high stakes, especially if one of the partners is serving. So much more high stakes. It's like what they're saying, it really comes from the heart, because the next day they could be gone. So all these things that they're saying, they can't possibly be lying about how they feel for each other. But we have a little twist here. We have two men who are in love with each other. And if we think when World War One is, this is the 1910s, guys. like being gay wasn't even conceptually like possible. Like if you were gay in this book, if and you were found in compromising positions, especially in the war, they would exile you. They would maybe even send you on a mission that they knew you wouldn't return back from, and that's what we see happen in this book, and that's how we lose Gaunt. Oh my god, when I read that, I was like so disgusted and so like angry and sad. I cried because I was like, there's no way Gaunt died. Like we still have like 200 pages left. There's no way they killed off like one of the main characters. But I just think like it's so beautiful, man. Just the internalized homophobia and just seeing them fight like this obvious affection for each other for the sake of not being found out, just for the sake of not being called this or called that, or having views of them just be lowered just because they were in love with each other gay. They called men that were gay, they called them inverts. Whatever the fuck that meant. I had to search it up. I was like, what the fuck does invert mean? But it was such a beautiful book. There were so much good lines in this book, bro. I remember just reading it and just crying because it's like, you guys like really just like, they just love each other. And it's just so sad that they felt that they couldn't. Like it was just forbidden. And I was just like, no, like I wish I could like take them out of the book and place them in 2026 then where they could love each other freely. And I do think it gave a really good demonstration of how war affects people, how it affects men, how it can tear apart families, etc., etc. And this is her first book. This is her debut book, Alice Wynn, and she needs to do like a part 2 of this. I cannot believe that like the story of Gaunt and Ellie is finished here. Like this changed my perspective on everything. Like I don't know. I don't want to seem as if I'm fetishizing like LGBTQ romance, but something about like just how they struggle to be able to express themselves, like the forbiddenness of it all, like the taboo of it all, and how they fight through that, or if they don't make it at all. Like I just think it's so heart-wrenching. I just think it's beautiful. I just think it's beautiful. Like I think I have a new favorite genre now because I don't know, the LGBTQ romance they do it way differently than the regular straight romance, but this shit moved me so much. I was like, I didn't even finish the book. I was like, you know what, just order it on Barnes and Noble. Like I already know like it's gonna be on my bookshelf soon. But this book, I'm thinking of rereading it. I just don't know when. But this book is so beautiful, guys. It's so beautiful. I was so obsessed. I went on TikTok to try and visualize what these men would look like, and I even have a fucking folder, visualizing what these two men look like. This needs an adaptation. Y'all read that stupid ass, sloppy ass shit, Heated Rivalry. This is what the fuck you should be really enjoying, bro. If you're gonna if you're if you're gonna fetishize gay people, at least let it be like a meaningful story. Who the fuck gives a crap about two niggas ice skating, hockey, whatever the fuck? Read some real, you feel me? Read some real dinero, you feel me? The next book that I read was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. But I gave this book a 3-star. I was very close to giving it a 2-star. I just did not like how the book was going. And then I gave it a 3-star because towards the end, it kind of redeemed itself. But this is my Goodreads review. I said, I was skeptical reading this book because of the themes of infidelity, but thankfully it was short-lived. The multiple twists in the book definitely kept me on my toes, but the biggest one did not have my mouth wide in shock. I was disgusted and angry, rather. It was one thing putting up with the cheating, and it was another knowing whom Bobby's real father was. Now, I gave a lot of grace to Gabriel in the beginning. He didn't have the best example of love in his parents, and he was somewhat emotionally stunted and stubborn. But to seemingly ruin a family that seemed quite alright without you in the picture totally soured my taste of him. Granted, Beth had a say in this too, but to me, she is absolved. I will always side with the woman, despite how selfish and irresponsible she acted. Whatever, right? Love and grief can twist any person. I just hate that it had to come to this. I was so ready to give this book a harsher rating, but the ending pulled me back in again. And Frank, nobody in this book deserved your grace. All men should thrive to be as forgiving and noble as you. If I were in his shoes, I'd only see red. Maybe that calls for some self-reflection. And then I quoted, my foolish, noble husband with his misplaced sense of guilt. Now, this book follows a woman who had a little summer fling, I'd like to say, with this man named Gabriel, and they just didn't work out for each other. So she comes back to the village, and she has this other man, his name is Frank, who's been eyeing her for quite some time since they were children. So they get together, they get married, they have a child. The child dies in a tragic incident, and the marriage is kind of on the rocks, kind of on this tightrope where it's like this grief is really affecting them, but they're not talking about it because it was just so traumatizing. Then Gabriel comes back into the mix, and we have this affair that starts, yada yada yada. And just towards the end of the book, then we have a murder trial. Frank's brother is killed. We just have this murder trial, and then towards the end of the book, we find out who actually killed Frank's brother, and we find out who the kid who died in the tragic accident, who the dad really is. And I was just like, oh my fucking god. Because I just hate reading about cheating. I just think it's so undesirable. Like, who the fuck wants to read about that? I don't give a shit if the only time I would accept cheating in a book is if the wife, her husband is like beating her or some shit, or he's cheating on her, and the wife is like, you know what, I'm gonna fucking cheat on you. The fuck? And I'll be like, yes, go. But there was no fucking reason for this shit, bro. Just because a nigga is in your life again doesn't mean you get to just destroy this marriage that you built up. Like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth, even though that's why I was going to give it a 2 stars. And then they pulled me back. The twists were just like, the twists were like, oh my god, but they were like, oh my god. So I had to give it a 3 star. I don't want to, the twists were that crazy that I just don't want to spoil it. Like, so I had to give it a 3 stars, but I don't really have much to say about that book. Like, I expected more. And at sometimes I was just like, oh my god, just when can I finish this book? Okay, we have 2 more books left to review. The next book I read was Tuesdays with Maury. Now, this is a nonfiction book. This is a real book that took place. It is by Mitch Albom. I did not buy this book, but this book was really good. I gave it a 4-star rating, and I had a short review. On Goodreads, I said, lots of lessons to be learned from this book and a newfound hope for a cure to ALS. So Maury is a professor, and he is diagnosed with ALS, and ALS is such a cruel disease. It's fast acting. As soon as you're diagnosed, you're about halfway through with the disease's course, essentially. Like, you're probably given months or even years of your prognosis of how much you have to live, and it just follows along every Tuesday. Mitch would come along and follow along, and he would interview his old professor about life, about relationships, about just his outlook on life now that he knows that he's not going to be around. He's going to die soon. And there's just so many quotes in the books where it just gives you a different outlook on life. There was one quote that I had written on Fable that I was like, wow, like everybody should know about this. And the quote is, learn how to die and you learn how to live. And I was just like, wow. Because dying is such a scary thing to think about. A lot of people say they aren't scared to die, but you don't know you don't know you don't know that until you're on death's door. So, and then to spin it around and give this perspective of you won't know how to live unless you know how to die. But how can you learn how to die if you're not facing it, So it's like, can anybody ever really be free until they're like diagnosed with this life-threatening illness? And it's like, okay, I know I'm going to die. Let me just live life to the fulfillment. Or can we just start living life? Because we really don't know when we're going to die unless it's stated for us. So should we just live as if every day is our last day? But how can we do that if we live in a world like Iran just got fucking bombed yesterday? We're gonna get fucking fucked up in like probably the next week or so. So and you know what? Yeah. I'm going to start living, guys. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to get from that book, essentially. But yeah, that's how I felt about that book. It was a good read. It was a good read. It was a meaningful read, yes. But I don't have much to say about it. The next book that I read was The Things We Leave Unfinished. I don't know if, I still have it. It's actually holding up the iPad, so I can't bring it out for you guys. But Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. I gave this book a 3 star. This is what I said on Goodreads. I said, absolutely shocking, not exactly rare from Rebecca Yarros. I really tried to love this book as much as I loved The Last Letter, but the leads weren't very impressionable. I found myself finding Jameson and Scarlett's story much better. High stakes, old fashioned, unadulterated love. Unfortunately, towards the end of the book, I found myself fed up and skipping full chapters to read more to find out what would happen next. To say I was shocked was an understatement. I take great solace in knowing Scarlett did not follow far after Jameson. The happy ending that was written up hardly felt satisfying now after knowing the truth. I genuinely cannot believe the plot twist. Nothing in the book led me to think it'd end up like that. There was a super huge twist at the end of the book that I won't talk about because I think everybody should have a chance to read it and experience it themselves. But I don't know. The shock was crazy. Like, I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if I could. Crazy twist. It's just like I didn't like the twist. I think it uprooted everything that I felt about the book. And you know, it kind of confused me. Like there was a lot of plot holes. Like if this was the way, then how can you explain everything leading up to it? You know what I mean? It was such a crazy twist where it's like you once you read the twist, you're just supposed to go on. Don't start thinking back to what you read previously because it's going to make the twist like it's going to the twist will degrade. Like you'll start from reading it, be like, oh my god, then you think back to the rest of the book and you're like, wait, how would that work? So that's why I had to give it a 3-star rating. The actual main leads that were supposed to follow, I don't even remember their names. Like, I thought the romance was boorish. Oh my god. The only time I actually thoroughly enjoyed this book was when it would pan to the grandma and her love story, which took place in, you guessed it, another world war. This took place in World War II, and I'm telling you, bro, the fucking World War romances, I'm telling you, it's high stakes. I'm telling you, old-fashioned love, like, it just can't be beat. It will always beat the modern romances, and I would read the shit. I would literally be kicking my feet in bed. That's how beautiful and just old-fashioned the love was. And it was just way better than what was going on. Like, it would switch perspectives. Like, now I'm remembering the names. Noah and Georgia were the modern time leads. And then Scarlett and Jameson were the past leads. Georgia is the great-granddaughter of Scarlett. So we're reading Scarlett's, life up until a certain point. And towards the end of the book, I was just like, I really don't give a fuck about Noah and Georgia. I was literally skipping chapters. I've never done that. That's how bored I was of them. And I was just like, you know what? If they were to ever adapt this book into a movie, fuck Noah and Georgia. Just literally adapt Scarlett and James's movie. And you have an A24, 5 out of 5 on Rotten Tomatoes and Fandango. That's a 5 out of 5. A-list blockbuster movie right the fuck there. Put Zendaya in it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yeah, bro, I was like, bro, this is not, it's not doing it for me, bro. It's not doing it for me. It's not doing it for me. I really don't have much to say. I was just really disappointed because I hold Rebecca Yarros to such high regards, and that was the first time I rated her books anything lower than a 4-star. So yeah, that was the last book that I read in February. Yeah, I finished it on the 27th. So that's all the books that I read in February, guys. I like this format a lot more. There's a lot less time restraints to talk about what I wanted to talk about. In March, I have some good books lined up that I'm excited to read, and I will see you guys in another month for my March recap of all that I read in that month. Bye.